it's Janie over at the Bookworm Buddy. Welcome back. Today I am doing a tag for you. This is the Big Book Phobia Tag. It was originally constructed by Liz over at Liz's Book Buffet, and I will link her below in the description. I just thought this was a great tag. I didn't get tagged in it, but I figured I would do it anyway. The whole premise of this tag is to pick a big book that you haven't read and give reasons why you haven't read it, and then you pick a small book that you have read. Big books are 500 or more pages, small books are 300 or less, so let's first talk about the big book phobia. I myself don't have a phobia of big books. I actually love big books. For me, it is what is inside those big books that causes the phobia for me. For me, it's like maybe a genre I just decided I was going to start reading, and you put that together with a big book, and it creates a huge phobia. One of the genres I've really been wanting to branch out and read is historical fiction, and the historical fiction books that I have are big. So I'm going to get started on this tag. For my first pick is Ken Follett's Fall of Giants. I have a friend in my group that absolutely raves about Ken Follett. So I picked up a couple of his first books in their series, and Fall of Giants is one of them. This is the Century Trilogy, and I really do want to read it, but it's huge. It's 942 pages, and it's historical fiction. Like I said, those two together causes the phobia. That's why I haven't read that one. For the small book, however, I picked Stephen King's The Mist. This is one of my favorite books of his. I'll never forget the story. It has 230 pages. It was kind of a toss-up for me between this one and The Girl Who Loved Tom Gordon, and this one won. I will never forget this. Both the movie and the books are in the book. It's great. So pick one or the other, and you'll love it. And it has stayed in my brain for a long time. The next big book. Again, Ken Follett, The Pillars of the Earth. Another huge book, but this one surpasses the other one with 1,007 pages. Historical, and I'm going to read it. I'm going to read it. One of these days, I will get to this. For the small book for that one, I picked For One More Day by Mitch Albom. One of my favorite books. I loved this story. It's got a great message in it. And I love Mitch Albom's writing. I read this one. This is the only one I read, actually. I've been wanting to get The Timekeeper, and I haven't gotten it yet. But this one is at 197 pages, and I absolutely loved it. So it prompts me to read more of his stuff. The next big book. And I'm hitting myself because this is part of a challenge for me called That One Book, which is a book you must read at some point in the year that you have been struggling over. And for me, it is Les Miserables by Victor Hugo. This is a tome, let me tell you, a tome. And it is at 1,232 pages. And I chose this book for that challenge. And I've started it twice here. I started on my Kindle, thinking maybe not seeing the book this big that I would be able to get through it. It's a classic. People say it's great. And I'm just waiting to get to that part of the book where I can't put it down. And I mean, I've read to page 50. And reading to page 50 took me 2 weeks. I can read a book in about 2 days. Maybe not one this big, but this is a classic, and I've not read many classics. So one of these days, I have to get it started. It's my challenge. I have to read it this year. I should get started. So for classic versus classic, I chose The Outsiders by S.E. Hinton. This is a awesome book. This one comes. Oh, you know what? I never even said how many pages was in there. Oh yeah, I did. Anyway, I'm rambling. The book and the movie are great. This is so many heroes in this story that you wouldn't expect to be heroes, and I loved it. This book has got 180 pages, and I will read it again and again and again, and I loved it. And everybody should experience the story. For the next big book, I chose The Unabridged Jack London. I bought this book in memory of my mother because my mom absolutely loved Jack London, so I got the book. She can't be wrong. She's been my influence on books and on mystery, and she loved Jack London. I can remember her always having a Jack London book. Well, we did a buddy read on The Call of the Wild, and I had it in this book. That is the only story I read in this big book. This book is 1,143 pages. And I read The Call of the Wild, and I was like totally scarred by that story. It's just grotesque. And I'm trying to figure out what my mom liked about that book, because that was one of her favorites. So, yeah, I can't imagine if that book is any indication of what the other ones are like in this book. I can't imagine enjoying it, so I've not picked it back up. For the small one, I picked Promise Not to Tell by Jennifer McMahon. I don't love her stuff, but it's always enough for me to read her books. Now, I did like The One I Left Behind a lot, and that's why I picked up this one. And it was okay. I mean, it wasn't like, you know, mind-blowing. This was 249 pages. Oh, no, actually it's 250. 250 pages, and it was okay. So, I will read more by Jennifer McMahon. So, if you haven't read The Bodies, or The Ones I Left Behind, you should read that one. That one was pretty good. And this one was okay. For my last big tome for my phobia, I picked Edgar Allan Poe, Complete Tales and Poems. And it is not because I don't like Edgar Allan Poe, because I love him. I love him. The reason I have read The Raven in here, because that's like my all-time favorite. But the reason I have not read this big book is because you have to have the right time to read his stuff. And the right time is usually for me spook season. And there's other books that I pick up for that time, and I don't ever get to this, and I really need to get to this and read more. Maybe I'll just, like, every time spook season comes, read one or two out of the book. But that's the only reason why I haven't read it. It's not because it's a big book, and I don't like Edgar Allan Poe because I love him. It's just because it's like one of those timed books, and you really need to read it at a specific time, in my opinion. I mean, not everybody's like that. And then for my last small book, let's get these big books out of the way here, because I'm feeling claustrophobic with big books. The last one I picked is Monkey Shines by Michael Stewart. If you have never read this book, you really need to read this book. This is a classic horror book. And basically the story is, our main character is a well-known athlete. He's a great runner. He's got his whole life in front of him until an accident, and he becomes a quadriplegic. And it comes to the point where, you know, he wants to kill himself, and he can't even do that. So his friend decides he needs a therapy animal, and rather than going with a dog, they go with a monkey. As far as the monkey goes, it is true that monkeys become very loyal to their owners, as this one did. And it's kind of hard to even get around the person because the monkey doesn't like it, kind of thing. And I've heard that happen in real cases. And that's what happens in this book, but it goes just a little bit further. It is a classic horror story, so you really, really, really need to read this. I can remember seeing a movie years ago about Monkey Shines, and found out that it was a book. And it took me forever to find the book. And I finally found it by ordering it online. And I was so happy. This book has 256 pages and is definitely a favorite for me. So if you happen to get a hold of this book, get it and read it. It's very worth the read. So that is my phobia tag. If anybody's read any of these books that I have mentioned, let me know. I had a hard time finding the small books because I don't have a lot of small books. I don't read a lot of small books. I mean, I can fit them all in one hand. Look at that. Anyway, that's it for my tag. Wait, I gotta tag some people. I have a list to tag. I am going to tag really quickly because this is getting really long. I'm going to tag the Book Moo, Rob F, Amanda at Amanda in PA, the Thrifty Reader. I'm going to tag Anna Scott, Deborah over at Deborah Books Cafe, Danny Cole, Rose at The Realistic Fiction Life, Janelle at Miss J Rod 1980, and Ruth at The Kindle Reads. I'm sorry guys if you've done this tag and I retagged you. Forgive me, I didn't take the time to look it all up. So those are the people I tag. Do this tag, please. Thanks for staying tuned, guys, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye.